Hello, Steffi here. It's time to talk. Real people, real lives. Today's topic is a topic not many want to talk about it, but it is so important, and especially in the times right now with so much uncertainty, not just in our country, all over the world. We have to share our pain. This is what our guest said just lately. So what do I talk about it? It is mental health. But I call it mental health challenges we all having. And the thing is, 80% of us will experience this in our lifetime. And I don't know, where are you sitting right now? Do you experience some kind of mental health challenges right now? Do you ask for help or do you bottle it in? Think about it. Maybe there is time to ask for help. Share the pain. This is what our guest is doing today. So it's a big pleasure for me to introduce Todd. He came along to share his story, how he experienced a mental health challenge the first time in his life. Todd, welcome.
Steffi, great to be here.
Honestly, it's so good. I know how busy you are.
Oh, well, yeah, a little bit at the moment.
Yeah.
But it comes with the territory. So
yeah,
it's all
just
good.
a little bit. But the thing is, it's so great to just have to chat, to see you here as a man, to speak up, and that's what he said, share your pain. So what happened to you first time in your life, your experience?
Well, I'd been in big jobs before and obviously had just taken over a pretty big job as the leader of the opposition. And I was driving home and I had this intense sort of prickling sensation in my head that then took over my whole body really, and by within sort of very, very short period of time I had this deep sense of anxiety and almost nauseous anxiety that sort of broke over my body, and I tried to breathe and I thought, what's happening here? And I managed to sort of try to keep it together and got home, and by the time I'd got home, I sort of burst into tears. First thing, I walked in the door and Michelle gave me a hug and I just burst into tears and I sobbed and sobbed and sobbed, and I went to bed and woke up the next morning. I was tired, but I felt okay. And it came back again a few days later, and so the frequency of it just became intensely debilitating. And as you know, I've decided to tell a little bit of the story about that in public, because I think it's important for people to know that it happens to a lot of people, regardless of what role they might be having in society.
Yeah. No, it's a huge problem at the moment. And like when you say it came back, so the frequency was like in shorter ones, so
Yes,
not like a week later. It's actually like 3 days, and then suddenly once a day. Or
yes, that's exactly what happened, and then it happened multiple times a day. And I was just, I've said it before. I wrote about it in the local paper here. It felt like I was wrestling with myself, because I'd always wanted to have that job.
Yeah.
You know, you always want to test yourself. You think, can I be, in this case, could I be the leader of the opposition? And I had the support of my colleagues to get to that. And you don't want to let yourself down. You don't want to let your family down. You don't want to let the people who had put you in their confidence down. And so I was just having this constant battle between what I felt I must be for myself and my family and my community and ultimately perhaps party and country, versus what actually was happening inside. And I just fought that with every sinew that I had, but it just got worse.
And do you think it had to do with the kind of pressure, the pressure you put on yourself, that it caused this challenge?
I think it must have had a contribution to it. I found it very difficult, right? Because I had been in senior roles before. I'd been a senior role in Fonterra at the very time that Fonterra had a botulism scare, and it was acutely stressful. Like acutely. I didn't see my family for 6 weeks. I was working 7 days a week. It was very bad.
And there was no,
I was tired, and I was anxious. Like you're slightly, and I'm sure people will understand this. I mean, you can often have what I'll call sort of background anxiety based on, what's going on at work or what's happening at home, or, and I'd had that on and off when life got tough and tight before. but nothing like this. Nothing so utterly debilitating as these just waves of nauseous, anxious, and I couldn't sleep at night. I was having, I was sweating. I just couldn't go to sleep. I'd have a sleeping pill and sleep for 2 hours. It was
really
very, very bad.
So when did you decide to talk? Because first you talked to Michelle, to your wife, and then you decided to talk to a close friend.
Yeah.
So that was also a next step, because we talk, men don't.
So I have to be honest here.
Yeah?
My wife was talking to my best friend.
Okay.
Because she was worried.
Yeah.
I didn't talk to anybody else apart from Michelle. And of course she saw it. And of course that's what happens, or it happened for me. I think it's really important that all I can ever do is talk about what happened to me. I don't feel confident or competent enough to hold a view on anybody else's journey. But for me, having Michelle was when I could put the mask down, because that's where when I walked home and closed the door, that's when I could finally show her the challenge of the battle, the wrestle, the daily wrestle. But nobody else saw it. The people I was working with didn't see it. And I gave probably subtle clues that I was, feeling under pressure, but they never saw the extent of it. And she was worried, and she was very worried for me. And I've said it, and I think it's right. She used an enormous amount of energy herself, putting up what I'd call emotional scaffolding around me to stop me falling.
I liked it, the scaffolding.
And but I'd shared it with nobody else. Now, of course, looking back, I should have.
Yes.
But as we were just discussing, I don't know if it's a gender thing, but I suspect it is. I didn't want to let people down. I didn't want to let myself down, but mainly my family and community. And so you just bottle it.
Yeah.
And because I had to get back in control of it, because this was the job that I'd wanted. So I'm not going to let this slip. I'm going to, I'm going to keep fighting. And actually, all around you is this sort of, I think, sort of societal commentary that when you're up against it, you fight harder. Yeah. Part of resilience is the demonstration that you can walk through the fire and not get melted by it. Where actually the reality of life is that you get melted by a lot of things. And it's how you adjust and absorb that and be able to move on in a positive way that actually is the test. Not whether you can withstand the fire. And look at me, I've been, actually the reason I can talk to you about it is because I admitted that I was in a problem. Yeah,
but do you feel like much light, and like a relief that you actually spoke up openly?
Oh, the light, immensely. I mean, I feel a whole lot better. You're not exactly like you were. I don't know if you ever are, right? I think what you do is you are the sum of your experience. And people say, so it's interesting, people come to me and say, you're right now?
Oh, they care.
Yeah, they do care, which is lovely.
Yeah.
And of course I'm much better.
Yeah.
But it's not like flicking a switch.
No.
You don't fall as I did and then sort of wake up the next morning and say, that's done now.
Yeah. No.
You still have moments where you have to acknowledge and feel the triggers and feel the sense of making sure you're managing yourself.
Yeah.
And so what I've decided that if in a little way I can help people by sharing the fact that is what I have gone through and continue to navigate, then maybe that's positive.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think also a big factor was the expectation from the outside.
Oh, huge.
This was also, there was huge pressure on yourself, and
yes.
You never experienced something like this.
No, but it was my
to be perfect.
Yeah, it was my desire, or not drive, if you like, to make sure that I delivered to that expectation.
Yeah.
So yes, you can have expectation, but it's how you mentally then approach that. And for me, it was like I just have to succeed. Failure is an option. Well, actually, honestly, failure, and I don't like that word anyway.
Yeah, I don't like it.
Was not acknowledging earlier, not talking earlier to more people.
That's what I just wanted to ask you. Would have been a different outcome if
the great $100 question.
If you would, but if there is no if, it's not done. But now you experienced it, and like you say, it is not over. It is still it's a journey.
It is absolutely.
It is a journey, and the thing is, now you know to acknowledge it and asking for help.
Yes. I think the acknowledgement is that is the that is the courage.
Not
right?
be stubborn. As a man, I can't show
totally.
it. No, show it. You can cry. It's nothing wrong. The man is crying.
Well, it's the most natural thing in the world. But it was interesting that I hadn't really cried like that since my father died. When I walked in that first night when I first had it.
It's just like a tsunami,
It was a tsunami. And interestingly, though, I thought that because I had cried and let it out, the next day I'd be able to rebuild. Because isn't that what normally happens? You know, if you have a really big cry, you feel a whole lot better, which I did. I slept well that night. Wake up the next morning, I'd be fine. And I was fine that day, and I was fine the next day. Then, bang, back it came again. And faster and faster and faster. And that's when ultimately I realised, people say, you're so courageous. I get that. It's been amazing, right? I have hundreds of people,
that's awesome.
Emails, texts, phone calls, people coming to shake my hand. I look back on it, I don't feel like that is a credit that's due, with perhaps one exception, is that I've talked publicly about it. The only courageous thing really was for me was when I acknowledged that I couldn't do it anymore. That is the courage. Like as men,
definitely.
I think, and I've sort of absorbed this narrative over the years, that courage is fighting through the pain, right? Where actually courage can be accepting it and talking about it and saying, actually, what I'm feeling now, I don't feel very good. And I need to be honest with you that actually I don't feel good, and say that to your wife or husband, to your wife or friend or whoever, because actually sharing that is the courage.
That's right. And then making the decision, I think that was the next step.
Well, interestingly, the moment I think the hardest decision is the sharing, more than decisions that are needed to then happen subsequently. Because once you've shared, you talked about lightness. I think there's a heaviness that comes off you, at least in my case. And I would think that actually for a lot of men, that once you share that first time, there is immediately a lightness.
This is actually a really important point, and a really interesting one, like the work I'm doing, what I see there, and then people come up to you because you think, oh my goodness, they will judge you, but they know, they will support you all the way they can, but you think that the other way around.
Totally.
No? This is the thing.
This has been the most humbling thing about it, is that one of the reasons that I fought so much was because I internally, the wrestle, if you like, was that I can't let people down, right? But I've had more emotional connections, particularly with men, since I have made it public than I ever had in the 6 years previously as the local MP. People would cross my hand, across the road, shake my hand, and I'd get this time and time again. I get, good to see you back, is the first thing. And then secondly, you'll get, I've had a bit of that too.
Isn't it? And they start sharing. They start sharing. This is
look,
important.
Steffi, I would say hundreds of conversations in the last 2 months.
And this is great. Look, for in life, everything is a reason. For everything is a reason. And for you opening up, maybe for our community here in Tauranga, like we just talked about before, the suicide rate in men is far too high. Maybe with you opening up, we can start with something new here in Tauranga, what can spread around New Zealand, especially for men, to really speak up, to share their feelings, share their thoughts, and that will improve the relationship with themselves, the relationship with their partners, with their children, domestic abuse, it's really high as well. I think for you doing this, it was a catalyst for something else here in Tauranga. I really can see this.
Well, I hope so. I mean, that's I chose to do it because I was in a public role, and clearly people could see that, there was a problem, right? They could see it in my face. They could see it in the last week or two. And then suddenly I resigned, and when I did, I said that I needed to step aside for health reasons. And so I made a decision with Michelle's support that I would be open about it.
Yeah.
And so when people said, well, what did happen? And there was all sorts of rumours around saying, well, did he have a breakdown? Well, yes, the answer is yes, I did. And here's how it happened. And here's how stunned I was as it unfolded, and how hard I fought for it not to happen. But ultimately, I just needed to walk away from the fire, as I said, and then by sharing the pain, I've had this reaction. And I think, well, that's good. Some good amazing. Comes from this, which is, humbling.
Yeah, no, that's right. Like I say, you build a relationship within yourself to realize, oh God, there is something going on, speak up.
Yeah.
But also a relationship with people you have never met before.
Yes, and that's been the most extraordinary thing.
This is what I think.
And it's just to your, when we're talking earlier, it just opened my eyes to the scale of challenge that exists in this space. We do live in some pretty remarkably challenging times in New Zealand and globally, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And people are stressed and they are anxious.
Yeah.
And they don't talk about it, and we need to.
Yeah, no. On your story, I'm so happy, honestly, you share this with us on camera, because I know it will make a huge difference.
Wow,
so what advice would you give for someone who is sitting in the same boat, is scared to speak up, or thinks, oh my, I can't tell someone? So what advice would you give to some, especially men? Really, I really want to address it to men. What would you say, Todd?
I would say that every man has somebody, be it a mate or a wife or a partner, who they have shared previously with, right? And that they're close to, and that they love, even if they're not necessarily prepared to say that you love a mate, but who are just a big part of your life, okay? And there's a reason why you're close to them, is they like you. They rate you. They love you back, right? You like them, they like you back. And so that is as safe an environment as possible for you to be able to say, you know what, I'm not right. And the key thing is everybody has at least one person to say I'm not right to.
Yeah.
And you've got to say it. And it's not as if that you say it and then suddenly tomorrow it's all going to be perfect, but it is just so important to say, hey, I just need I'm just not feeling that good. Here's what's going on. And the moment you start giving voice to the pain and voice to the struggle and give words to it, it becomes easier.
Oh, thank you. That was so powerful. I think your message is absolutely amazing.
Thank you.
It will make a difference. Thank you so much for sharing your story
problem.
With us.
No problem, Steffi. No problem.
Wow, I can feel this energy in here now. Oh, that was so great. And what I want to say to you, there is no shame in being a human, being honest, being real. And there is no shame in experiencing mental health challenges. Ask for help. There is help out there. It's really time to talk. So remember, we are on this journey together. Let's start the conversation, share your thoughts, and subscribe to our channel. Enjoy life, live in the moment, and most of all, be unstoppable. You are worth it, and that's all that matters. It's time to talk. Bye for now. See you soon.